I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that this group literally puts an L on their forehead, and I understand, league, things like that, but I think that's always going to crack me up. This week's episode of My Hero Academia really dives into Twice, and Twice has always been a character that I think, on a power level, has been one of the more intriguing at face value. So, to have an episode and an arc that's dedicated to who usually are the villains and the people we root against, or we normally want to, at the very least, push back against. Twice, and having him be almost in a hero role, and they even have like some self-aware dialogue in this episode with one of the characters saying, this is basically what a hero would do in a normal story, right? The power of love and compassion, you overcame your demons, and now look at what you're doing, Sad Man's Parade. Pretty badass, and really is normally a shonen hero's story, yet these are actually the villains fighting other villains, right? And it's such an interesting formula. Twice is a character who I'm also glad that they said it in this episode when they were touching upon his backstory, like, the ability he has could destroy the world in the right way. Like, if he knows how to use it, if he uses it correctly, he could literally control the world if he wanted to. And they always do a good job, I find, when a character has something that should be overpowered, giving it a hindrance, right? The idea that once he creates a duplicate of something, the more and more he does it, it's not like, you clock them over the head eventually, they're not going to be all that strong. But the idea of, like, swarming in waves with that many, like the Sad Man's Parade, you can see how you could really turn the tides of a war and really put someone like Shiguraki's side on top of everyone else. This episode, we seemingly finally get to that moment that was teased months ago, where we saw Shiguraki just kind of looking at a collapsed building and collapsed landscape, and it seemed like this was going to be the point in the story where that happened, and holy shit, I'm not sure if I'm the only one who's feeling it. When we saw our boy Twice fighting Redestro, he basically ended up making the gang as well as himself as they're trying to save their comrade. I actually thought the real Shiguraki was up there. That's why I thought when he was captured, he was just going to kill him. So, when they were building up to the moment where the duplicate's saying, hey, I saw him down below, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, it must be the big man. He's finally awake, he's gonna crash the building, and to just see that hand touch the building and it all collapses, pretty badass, I have to admit. Really badass, I have to admit. I mean, Twice as a character is someone who I think often in a story with a bunch of superpowers, normally the characters, when they struggle with their abilities, it's more of like people pushing back against it. I can think of stuff like in the X-Men comics and things like that. That's generally the way you go about it, and it works pretty well, especially if the author knows what they're doing. But the idea of someone actually getting in their own head, especially with the idea of being able to create duplicates of yourself, and because you're creating duplicates of yourself, who's real, who's not, and that would cause some pretty insane shit to occur. And someone who had a bad hand in life, dealt from pretty much moment one, no family, no friends, had a job, pretty much lost that, and was pretty much alone, so he started talking to himself, not even in like a metaphorical sense, like he literally made himself to talk to, and more bad things happen and pile and pile and pile, to the point that he really started holding himself back. And I think it's very interesting that the author went the route of putting a character in a normally protagonist role to then rise above in that hero way to make the readers, and in the case of the anime, the viewers, encouraged and delighted to see Twice rise above the Sad Man's Parade. He's literally swarming the streets and he's overcome his burdens. And then once again, you take a step back and you're like, oh shit, how the hell is Deku and Pals gonna deal with something like that? That's what I really love. Now, we did get a glimpse in this episode with the whole ice attack that pretty much annihilated a good chunk of them, so we can think of like characters like Todoroki and things like that on how they could deal with it, but still, the way this arc has definitely made you rethink who you're rooting for, even though realistically you should not cheer on Shiguraki's side. Even if most of these characters could be redeemed in your mind, Shiguraki's the one character you probably don't want to see, in a heroic sense, but goddamn, they really make you buy in and just support him. To kick off the episode with a scene slowly but surely like snapping Toga's neck, that was pretty interesting. I love the directing in slow-mo to that because it almost felt like it lasted a lifetime. But I think that was purposely done because for Twice feeling helpless and hopeless, as if, what he wants to save, it's like his life's flashing before his eyes. Her neck is slowly being turned, and within a moment she will die, and he had to overcome and rise above those faults that he saw in himself in order to save those that he cares for. And that was a really powerful moment, and I'd argue one of the more powerful moments My Hero has seen to date. And it's insane because this is a powerful moment that was emotionally gripping on the antagonist side. And I love that My Villain Academia has really lived up to what I want to see anyway, in terms of humanizing and getting us to understand them more than just the evil characters we fight, or in terms of, say, Twice, right? When we see him, cool power, but also just kind of a goofy character. But seeing the internal struggles he has, how mentally burdened he was and what was weighing him down, that shit goes a long way for when we're going to fight them with our normal central characters. And I'm not sure if we've ever touched upon this yet. I mean, if we take a look at the mid-slate cards where they show characters and they break down their powers, Gabby, he has no, information on his powers, but in this episode, the person he's fighting actually mentions that the reason why he doesn't fight for so long is that the scars we see on him is that he actually burns himself when he uses his ability. And that's starting to make a lot more sense both on a physical level, why his body's like that, but also why maybe he tries to take things out very quickly. And that's pretty cool. If they have touched upon that, it must have been a while because I don't recall it at all, but still, that's a really cool feature about a character for sure. And honestly, I mean, based on the fact that I thought the building was going to crumble because of the big man waking up and crashing it down, it's going to be interesting because they're trying to leave enough people alive so that it will take care of it, so then they can take care of it when it's tired. But now it seems like things are going in a different direction, which is pretty brutal and cool. I mean, I'm just giddy. I really enjoy this show. My Hero Academia, especially since the new arc started up, has definitely been one of my more intrigued and anticipated episodes every single week. But it definitely feels like, with someone like Twice, right, who I always like to think with My Hero Academia, I compare because superhero stories, I've experienced more than most types of stories out there, both in comics, TV, movies, things like that, even in anime as an example, even though they're not as popular in anime as they are in movies and things like that where I live. But still, I've experienced so many, so when I see stuff like this, especially with a character like Twice, I compare how it would normally go down in most cases, and it usually wouldn't go down in that original of a way. But that's what makes characters like Twice and stories like My Hero Academia so engaging for me, is that the essence of what makes a superhero story good is there, but it really does its own thing, which is really damn cool. I mean, it's anyone's guess where we're going from here, unless obviously you know the material, but hopefully people enjoy this one. As I've been saying the past couple of weeks, been really digging the comments. You know, there's respectful opinions, even if they disagree with me or disagree with other people. There's people breaking down why they feel a certain way, even if it doesn't match up with mine or other people's opinions. And I have to say, never thought I'd say this, especially for My Hero Academia, just given the controversy I see so often on the internet. It's probably one of the more respectful comment sections I think I've ever had, which is wild since this arc has done such up and down things for people, depending on if it was a good adaptation or not. So all I gotta say is keep doing what you're doing, everyone, because you guys have been a blast reading your comments, even if you disagree with me, which is a pleasant surprise in the My Hero Academia community, and we need more of that. Let me know your feelings on this week's episode down below. Love to hear what everyone's feeling. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.